Live from Parkside Lanes in Aurora, Illinois. The PBA Extra Frame Parkside Lanes Open Stepladder Finals begin in mere moments. Players just beginning their practice. Jeff Goodger with PBA Hall of Famer Randy Peterson. And Randy, as we begin for the top 5 stepladder here, very unique format for this event culminating.
Yeah, it really is. So not only do we use 3 different oil patterns throughout competition, but now for the stepladder finals, the highest seed in each match gets to choose one of those 3 patterns, and there will be a re-oil after each and every game, even if a player chooses the same pattern. Also, the players coming on will only get 2 practice shots on each lane, so no chance to build a shot or burn up a spot. This is going to be very interesting.
And everybody trying to get to that title match. One guy already in the title match is our top seed, Tackett.
Tackett was definitely the man to beat, and we kind of saw that throughout the 24 games of qualifying to get to this point. He dominated on all 3 of the patterns, and each pattern just seemed to fit his eye and his game perfectly.
And the practice on the lanes, Marshall Kent and Dom Barrett. That will be our opening match, 4 versus 5.
Tackett led by 80 pins over Chris Vi. Marshall Kent finishing up his 24th game in grand fashion by throwing a double to secure the 5th and final spot. Dom Barrett struggled, though, in his 8th game, falling from 2nd to 4th. We are going to start with 39 feet, and it's chameleon. All 3 patterns, 39 feet in length. And Dom Barrett, the higher seed, chose this chameleon oil pattern.
Position round, Randy. We saw Dom struggling quite a bit in that final game. Ended up dropping him down to this 4th spot. And Marshall Kent with the big finish to get in.
Dom Barrett, not only does he get to choose the oil pattern, he gets to choose starting lane and where he wants to finish this match. And again, after each game, we will re-oil. Marshall Kent looked like he was throwing urethane early. 2 practice balls on each lane. Very unique tournament, unique stepladder finals. Hard to predict what the scoring pace will be based on that, but if I were to make a prediction, I'd say probably medium. And here is 25-year-old Marshall Kent to start things off. And no problem with the 367. Now Dom Barrett from England. And the soft 10 on the right lane. Some of our other finishers: Chris Loschetter finished 6th, Andrew Anderson 7th, Matt Kuba 8, AJ Johnson 9, Jason Sterner 10, and I got to mention our good buddy Greg Ostrander, who had a nice week, finishing 11th. Simonson right behind him in 12th, Kyle Sherman 13th, Kurt Pelon in 14th, and Cameron Doyle and Tommy Jones rounding out the top 16. Look out. And not a very good break there, going Brooklyn and kind of squashing the 10.
Get another look here.
Left a target, no hold, and 10 pin standing. We'll give Don Barrett a spare there in the second. There we go. And now Marshall Kent. See if he gives this one a little bit more room. Beauty. Now, even though the players only got 2 practice balls on each lane for the start of this game, they had plenty of practice down on our practice pairs to the left of 27 and 8. So they're warmed up, and they've bowled on all 3 of these patterns. A lot of bowling already today. So it's not an issue of being warmed up. It's an issue of how this pair is going to play with very little breakdown to start.
Marshall Kent with the first strike of the match in the second frame. Now up in the third.
Almost. Good sign, though, because that looked like it was just a pinch inside a target. And it just leaves the 4 pin. The shaker 4 right here almost goes. Marshall Kent really coming into his own last year in an extra frame event in Lubbock, Texas, where he came away with the victory.
For most of the round today, Randy, we were a bit surprised by the scores being as good as they were. Expected much worse. And now in this stepladder final match, is there any reason to even predict what the scores may be?
I think they're going to be lower. I think they're going to be tougher because it's fresh. Not a lot of practice, not a lot of transition. Don Barrett striking in the third, 6-time winner on the tour, and won this year's Japan Invitational for his latest title.
He's won titles, PBA titles, in 4 different countries.
Really good. You can see the location out of his hand looked perfect from the get-go. And then the great release of Don Barrett makes that ball check up and get to the 1-3 perfectly. Now Marshall Kent with strikes in the 4th and 5th can regain the lead. Beauty.
Both players looking fairly confident in the last couple shots, Randy.
You know, I agree. I mean, as soon as it leaves your hand and your eyes look up to see the location, you have a pretty good idea of what it's going to do. He knew it immediately, left the target. one of our online viewers, Bill Schenner. Bill Schenner, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, Bill. Brought up a very interesting point. Typically what we see when we oil the lanes is that, and a good conversion there, is that we like to see that oil sit for a bit. We like to see it sit and kind of settle. With each re-oil for the stepladder finals, I'm guessing there is no wait time. They re-oil, you get your 2 practice balls, and they go.
Yeah.
And it's going to be very interesting to see what happens to that oil pattern.
Also interesting, the re-oil regardless of what the pattern is. Everybody could choose this same pattern, and they'll still get a fresh application.
Yep. Barrett for 3 in a row now. Gets it into that swish zone and shreds the rack. That's what power will do for you. That's why players put revolutions on the bowling ball these days. That and messengers look really cool.
Well, yeah.
Chicks dig the messengers.
Barrett for 4 in a row.
And pin got in the way of that one. Another good shot here by Dom. Head pin goes to the sidewall and then gets interfered with. And this to maintain a 19-pin lead. Well done. And now Marshall Kent stepping up, needs to double to apply a little pressure. This former Rookie of the Year back in 2014 has had recent struggles in televised appearances, stepladder finals. He has made 4 top 5 appearances this season. Well, that looked good as soon as it left the ball return.
Yes. Look at the confidence in Marshall Kent on this shot. You mentioned former Rookie of the Year. Kent, one of 3 Rookies of the Year on this show. 60% of our stepladder finalists.
It's great math. I don't know how you do it.
Neither do I. Marshall Kent looking for a double.
Big shot here. Give it some room to the right. Nope, it's up a lane again. Yep. Needs to give it more room to the right. Maybe it's just a matter of moving his feet left, leaving his target the same and increasing angle on that lane. But the good news for Marshall Kent, he only has 1 more shot on the left lane. Bad news, he's trailing by 18 with a spare here.
Gets the spare as expected. You could see Bill O'Neill off in the distance for a moment there as he gets warmed up for the next match. Winner gets Bill O'Neill on Bill O'Neill's choice of pattern and choice of starting lane. Barrett gets them all.
Well, he's figured out the pattern pretty quickly, and all it is now is execution. And that shot executed perfectly. He knows what he needs to do. Now it's just a matter of brain and body working in sync. Big break. Left lane looks like it hooks more too. It looks like Dom's deeper on that lane. This one had a little loft to it. It was up the lane just a bit, but I think that loft kind of helped it hold its course a little bit longer and chips the 410 out late. Marshall Kent right now thinking one thing and one thing only. I have to strike out. Right lane not an issue for Marshall Kent as he struck every time on that lane. This might be a good 4-board, 5-board to the left move with his feet. Maybe 1 or 2 with Tackett. Open up the angles a little more through the front on that left lane that appears to be a little drier. Marshall asking for a re-rack.
Re-rack granted. Get 2 per game.
You know, on television, they do that for you. You don't have to press the button. Just saying.
Should I go down there and
do
it for him?
Can't you tell Phil?
That's true.
Send him a text.
Phil is the distance of this lens to Marshall Kent away.
I mean, Phil, you're standing right there. Marshall's going with the ball change on this lane. See how this works. Well, what's good for one is good for the other. Marshall tripping out the big 4 and catching his first double, setting up the 10th frame for Marshall Kent from Yakima, Washington. This is a nice break here, though. Hey, he was gutsy enough to make the change. Made a decent enough shot. 4, 6, 7, 10 goes last. But this is all about Dom Barrett stepping up right here and claiming victory here in match number 1. One more strike here. Dom will be in the high 230s. He would need just a mark in the 10th frame with good count. Marshall Kent, max score 230. Dom Barrett, max score 258.
How good was that, Randy?
Well, all I could do was watch between the crack in his legs to see the ball actually flush the 1-3. But since we're going to Fox, I'll use a term that Rob Stone would use, and that was a 10-pin party in the pit. Thanks for that, Rob.
Sure, Rob is watching from Russia right now.
I'm sure Rob is definitely watching from his vantage point not far from the Kremlin as he covers the World Cup in Russia.
Now Dom Barrett, 10th frame to lock up this match and move on to face Bill O'Neill.
Yeah, any mark and good count right here. Look out. Not over yet, folks.
That is not a gimme.
That could have been disastrous. Right through the face, leaving the 3-6-10. And no gimme spare here. Very easy to chop. Nicely done. Keep it on the lane. Dom, you need 3. I'm sorry, that is incorrect. We have to add the 7 in there. You need 6. Straight ball down the middle. Works for me. Dom Barrett moving on. He will take on Bill O'Neill.
Marshall Kent will fill out his 10th frame for official scoring purposes. Bill O'Neill will declare the lane pattern. We will re-oil the lanes. Each player will get 2 shots. And we will be back with our next stepladder match, Bill O'Neill versus Dom Barrett, coming up next.
All right, congratulations, Dominic. Moving on. How about one more round of applause for Mr. March 15. All right. Our number 3 seed who will face Dominic Barrett comes from Langhorne, Pennsylvania. This gentleman won the Rookie of the Year in 2006. He won the 2010 U.S. Open. He has 9 titles in total. Mr. Bill O'Neill. We oil the lanes for our second match. Bill O'Neill has chosen the PBA bear pattern. For everybody that's standing over here, if you'd like to come sit down over here, there's plenty of seats. That was our first match. We got a few matches to go. So I need to get a handful of 10 people to come sit over in these chairs for me, please. Handful of 10 people. Rachel, we got a winner? You got a number? Ball winner? Yes. What was the number? The winner of game 1's ball raffle is Carter Carson with a score of 461. We'll take care of you in a little bit, alright? I'll give you a ball for a free adjustment from your dad. How's that? His dad is my chiropractor. He's been here all weekend for all the players, so thank you so much. He's also a big sponsor of this event, so thank you, Eric.
practice. Again, we need scorecards for game 2 for the ball raffle for the second game. Make sure you turn those in before the game starts. Again, if we can keep the flash is off the cameras, please, and cell phones on vibrate.
Bill O'Neill, Dom Barrett coming up, finishing their 2 practice shots on each lane right now. Randy, Bill O'Neill has chosen the bear pattern.
We'll see how that works out, but Bill O'Neill was so clutch the last couple of games, coming out of the stretch in the last 8 on this pattern. So he's probably working that good juju right now and hoping that it can take him the rest of the way up the ladder.
And we had a chance to talk with Bill right after qualifying, and we'll take a look at that right now.
You just made the finals in the brackets. You made a kind of pretty good push today. How'd that feel?
Yeah, it was pretty good. I mean, it was a slow start. Pulled 180 the first game out of the gate and made a bad decision on how to play the lanes, and then, changed balls, and I used the same ball the rest of the way. And I didn't even really look at the scores most of the day. I knew I needed a big one, so I wasn't really paying attention too much. And then, it was good to bowl a good game the last game there. I mean, I've had a couple close calls this year making step ladders, so it was nice to bail out a big one there.
What's your mindset now going into, you get rid of all the pins, get rid of all the bonus. Now it's just mano a mano. What's your mindset change?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be too cliche, but really, I mean, it's just one shot at a time. You can't get. One thing I know from bowling a lot of these is that you can't get too high and too low in the early part of these matches. Anything can happen, and it's only one game, so you really gotta live by every shot and stay focused on that particular shot.
Match about to begin. Jeff Goodger, Hall of Famer Randy Peterson, now also joined by Marshall Kent.
And Marshall, thanks for stopping by after your match with that man right there. Talk about how difficult it was to go into that opening match with only 2 practice balls on each lane.
Well, it's not usually too bad going to a match with 2 practice balls in each lane, but when 3 out of the 4 shots are marginal at best, it's kind of hard to get a read of the pair. And so the right lane I obviously favored, but the left lane I just never trusted myself and never really figured it out.
And it looks like in your match, And also with this shot right here by Dom and the opening shot of the match against Bill O'Neill, it looks like the left lane hooks more. Did it hook more in your match?
It definitely hooks more. I'd probably say it hooks 3 or 4 more at least. And like I said, when I made the moves, I just never trusted my shots to get to the right and hook back. So everyone was over my left toe, and I could never get a read on how much more 27 hooked exactly.
Do you think this pattern's going to play all that much different than the pattern you bowled on?
I think it's going to play. I think they're going to play similar zones, but I think it's a flatter pattern, so they're going to play tougher. So this match is going to come down to shot execution and maybe a break or two down the stretch. And I think Dom's looking like he's feeling pretty comfortable on the pair. He knows the pair, he knows the pattern, and I mean I expect this to be a pretty close match.
That's a pretty good shot there. And we've been talking about Bill O'Neill pretty much all day, and you know the changes that he's gone through with his physical game, and then how close he's been and how unlucky he's been this season. I remember we talked about Shota Kawazoe striking all 3 in the 10th to knock Bill out by 1 pin, and it just seems like that's kind of been the trend, and we've been talking about how O'Neill just needs a break or two to go his way to be back in the winner's circle. Your thoughts?
I completely agree with that. He's there every single tournament, but it just seems like someone throws a big game or someone strikes out or something to jump around him for the last spot on the show. Like, I've crossed with him for a couple events in February and watched it all happen. And you feel for him because he's bowling so well, and then just some freak thing happens and he misses the show.
Well, both players off to a perfect start in this match. Which lane is the better of the two, Marshall?
See, if you're asking me, I'm going to say the right lane because I didn't miss on that one. But it really depends on what you're looking for. If you want a spot to hook it or a spot for it to come off of, I think 27 is a better lane. But I think 28 has a little more defined hold to it, so it's really playing to your miss.
Look out. Whoa. That finished up in a good spot. High flush for Don Barrett and the front 3. How many boards different for you from 27 to 28?
I think it's 3 or 4.
3 or 4 with your feet?
Yeah, 3 or 4 with the feet, I'd have to say.
Okay. O'Neill looking to tie it up here early. How's it look? Pretty good.
Very solid.
A great shot here by Bill O'Neill. It splits the 8-9 in half. Right underneath the Steve Jarris banner. Steve, 52 years of age, finishes 18th. So congratulations on a great week for you, Steve. How you doing letting that old man get in there?
He bowled really well. It was fun to watch.
The hooking lane.
There it is. Oh.
No. There it was.
There it was. And there it goes.
And we were talking just a few frames ago about O'Neill getting a good break.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a great break.
Now, a break's only a good break if you take advantage of it.
It's a great point.
Let's see if we can parlay it. See, it's one thing to cave the big 4 with one shot, but if you go up the next shot and wash out, it's not a good break anymore.
Agreed. And isn't it amazing in this sport how things work? Dom comes back with a great shot, ring 10. O'Neill, his shot trips out the big 4 late. Mm-hmm. And just like that, O'Neill has the lead. Both players have been on both sides of that, guaranteed.
Absolutely.
As has all of us.
Yes. It kind of stinks when you're on the worst end of it, but it all evens out over time.
Yeah, it sure doesn't taste very good when it's happening to you, that's for sure. O'Neill has to finish on that left lane.
the ones that crack me up are the ones that, let's say, cave a big 4 and then roll a 2-pin, and then the next one's like a solid 9. And then they come back and they say, I can't catch a break.
And they kick the ball return. Yeah. Drop an F-bomb as loud as you can.
Yes.
It's perfect. Look out.
There's that spot again.
So, Marshall, let me ask you this. Typically what we see when we oil the lanes is a lot of proprietors, a lot of lane men, they like to see the oil sit for a period of time so that the integrity of the pattern holds up.
Yes.
Well, we're not going to see that here today.
No.
So what's going to happen with these oil patterns?
I think the moves are going to be faster, and they're going to be different than they have been all week. Because when you let a pattern sit and settle, it doesn't tend to move as much, and so you can gradually make like 2-and-1s, 3-and-2s. Whereas it looks like here, where, I mean, even though it's fresh, you're probably going to be moving every shot or every other shot. Even though it's just 2 on the pair, it's still settling while they're bowling on it. So not only do you have the movement of the pattern settling, but now you have the traffic of their bowling balls tearing up the lane.
It's a great point. Watch for that. Watch these players micromanage the adjustments. Does that need a hook? And just like you said,
What were we talking about?
it's only good if you can take advantage of it. That looked like it got a little bit right of target. Either that or it was just a pinch fast. And as lucky as he was on 27, this time not so much.
I think it might have been a combination of both. I think it's fast and right. If he throws at normal speed, it comes back in 2 pins at worst.
Now, does he move left on this next shot on the left lane?
I'd have to think so. Like I said, with the pattern settling and the traffic, I think you have to make your moves too fast rather than not fast enough. That looked more left.
No, that's terrible.
Why?
Just a terrible break. As good as the last one was on this lane, this one is equally as crappy. And that's how you take advantage of back-to-back open frames given to you by your opponent.
I was just about to say the same thing.
What do you like about Don Barrett's game?
Very simple, you know, not the most powerful, doesn't have the highest wear rate, doesn't have the highest ball speed, but I feel like him and I are similar in the sense that you kind of have to get creative with your shot shaping and your shot making and your ball selection, and that's one thing Dom is really good at. He's very good at manipulating the ball to see the shape that he likes to see, both in mid lane and down lane. And then on top of that, he's really good at ball selection. That's why he's able to compete week in and week out.
Left lane's going pretty quick, isn't it? 4-pin now, fast 8 on the left lane for Don Barrett.
Yeah.
Looks like a pretty good shot here,
Yeah.
Marshall.
You can see it start to read probably a few feet sooner than the last shot, that lane. And I'm sure he made a move off that shot before too, and it's still hooked, overhooked.
I got a feeling that Bill O'Neill's going to double up here and make it interesting.
I think you're not wrong. Which I feel like I don't say that too often to you, but I feel like you're not wrong.
Thank you, Marshall.
Pretty good.
I'm halfway there to being right for once in my life.
There's a first for everything.
Like you buying a meal for someone else.
Ooh.
Sorry.
Ouch. Never buying you free breakfast again.
Marshall and I got to spend some time together in Japan last year. Went to 3 different military bases, Okinawa, Yokota, Misawa. Had a great time while we were over there. Big shot right here.
Pretty cool. Wow. Oh! Oh!
Well, the good news is he catches another nice break on this lane. The bad news is he has to finish on this lane. Now, this is after a pocket 710.
This is a roller coaster of a game.
What a huge break that is for Bill O'Neill, setting him up for the 9th and 10th.
That is huge.
But nothing he can do if Don Barrett strikes out. Bill O'Neill will finish the match first. He could sure give Dom a lot to think about.
Close.
Soft 10. Well, now Don Barrett is in jeopardy of getting shut out. How hard is it to get to the pocket right now? On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the toughest.
Well, that's tough to say because they're making it look fairly easy.
Yeah, but you guys are good.
But on this pattern, in this certain situation, I'd have to give it probably a 6.
Like it.
Seems fair.
Now, what's going to happen on this crazy left lane? I believe his last 2 shots were 4-pin fast 8.
Yes.
On the left.
See how many boards he moves to make up for it.
What's the move?
I'd have to move at least 3.
Okay. Up the lane, look out.
Didn't trust it.
Yeah.
This is exactly what I did all game.
And isn't that because of the uncertainty that if you do get it to the right, it may not hook back?
That's 100% correct.
Right?
You have to trust the move, but in the back of your mind, you're saying, what if I get the ball to the spot and at 2-8-10s?
Right.
Like that's kind of always a thought when you make a big move.
Right.
So then you make up for it by trapping it and making sure it gets to the head pin.
That's why I love bowling on the house shot back home, because if my ball goes high, I make the move, and I know if I get it to the right, it's going to hook.
Yes.
So it's that free willy, that free swing. But when a player's mind makes an adjustment, and then there's that slightest doubt in your mind that the ball may not get back if you get it to the spot, you'll never get it to that spot.
No, it's very rare that you'll get it there.
Now, O'Neill.
First shot in the 10th, a winner.
On the crazy left lane.
On the crazy left lane.
So, yeah, it's almost like you have to mind trick yourself into make the move and just pretend that anywhere right the ball's going to hook back from.
Yeah,
especially on the left lane where there's so much friction.
Yes. I guess another way to combat that, too, is move twice as much as you think you're going to, because that way if you do trap it, it's still got more of a chance to sit there and strike rather than what we saw in ducking up and going through the face.
For the win.
He made another move. That was a beautiful shot.
And he made a great shot. Wow. He aced that one. Watch this. Check out the balance after this shot here. Think he thinks that one's any good?
That was a no-doubter off his hand, that's for sure.
Without question.
He knew it too.
That was a 100%er. Bill O'Neill advance to take on a non-winner on the national tour in Chris Vi. Does he stay with the same pattern for the next match? Oh, it's not his choice. I take that back.
Yes.
Does Chris Vi stay with that pattern? Or does he go with something completely different? Greg sitting next to you.
Tough
Greg
to
Ostrander
say.
shaking his head yes. Or nodding his head yes.
I don't see why he changed his pattern. Because Vi bowled pretty good today on that, didn't he?
Yes.
Well, obviously he's in second. He got to second, so he had to bowl pretty good.
He had like the third highest
yeah.
block on it.
Yeah.
Dom Barrett finishing his 10th frame. Bill O'Neill advances to take on Chris Vi in the semifinal match. Jeff Goodger, Randy Peterson, Marshall Kent. Back shortly. Semifinal match about to begin at the PBA Extra Frame Parkside Lanes Open. Bill O'Neill, having just defeated Dom Barrett, gets Chris Vi, the number 2 seed. Jeff Goodger with Hall of Famer Randy Peterson, and now joined by Dom Barrett himself. And Dom, Chris Vi choosing Bear right after you and Bill O'Neill played on Bear. What do you think about that?
Hi guys, yeah, thanks very much for having me. And yeah, we just mentioned it, right? Oh, Randy's touching my microphone.
We want to hear those beautiful, beautiful pipes of yours. So I was just getting that microphone a little bit closer.
Yeah, so thanks very much for having me. And yeah, like we were just talking about it. I'm a little bit surprised that Chris has picked that pattern, considering Bill was just bowled on it. On the last one I just played on Bear against Bill, the left lane hooked about 5 more. And you can see actually how tight the right lane felt, but to me it felt more like the left lane hooked. Sometimes that feels like a bit of a difference, if that makes sense to anybody. But so that's going to probably be a factor this match as well, that Bill knows that, and Chris has just had 2 shots on each lane to figure that out. But you know, if you've just bowled really well, like Chris has done all day on this pattern, and typically you can slow hook the Bear a little bit better than you can some other patterns. I think that's why Chris has picked this pattern. But I'd definitely say advantage Bill right now. Depending, you know, they've just been redressed. They could be a little bit tighter again. Left lane could hook even more. It's really hard to say. So we'll see how this plays out.
Are you surprised that Chris Vi chose to finish on the left lane?
Well, that's what we've all done so far. I think, you know, when you go up there and you get 2 shots warm up, no one's going to feel that comfortable on each lane, that is. And the safest bet usually is to let your opponent finish, especially when, you know, these patterns they've all been pretty hard this week. They're not that easy. So if you need a double in the 10th, you'd probably rather go up and try and do that first and put the pressure on your opponent. But, you know, that being said, the left lane's typically trickier, so it might come down to his ball rep to have said that to him. But, you know, Chris, we're all pretty strong-headed, us bowlers. We want to do what makes us feel comfortable. And right now, I know that Bill feels more comfortable than Chris, because Chris got 2 shots in each lane, that's it. Bill's had a game, even though they've been redressed. So you've got to try and do what makes you feel comfortable right now.
And a good start for Chris Vi. Owner of 1 regional title. He was a 2016 U.S. Amateur Champion and a 3-time member of Team USA.
I wasn't sure if you were asking me a question then. You're the stat guy.
Yeah, I was actually reading that.
You can read?
As far as you know.
I thought you were just one of the bowlers. And
it's a good thing you don't get paid to think.
All I know is I had to do a bit of decorating lately at home because we've got the baby on the way. I think my missus is at home watching. Hopefully she hasn't gone out and bought any more paint and wallpaper for me to put up.
Keep shopping. Dom just made plenty of money this week.
Enough to buy a bunch more diapers. We've got loads at home already, but apparently not enough.
Keep shopping. So, interesting shot on this left lane for Chris Vi. He gives it plenty of room, but comes back only for a 2-pin.
Yeah, I think he would have, figured out already that the left lane hooks. If he's already missed to the right like that and got those balls go long, then he already knows about the left lane.
Well, and my question is, how much was he watching the match that you had with Bill and the previous match? Because in both matches, the left lane hooked more.
I'm glad that somebody was watching, Randy.
I'm asking.
You do pay attention.
Well, it's my job. I have to. Wow.
So this is actually, Bill does like friction. He bowled really well last night. He bowled well today, especially when they get a little bit more burnt up. And the left lane already feels like it hooks more. It feels a bit more burnt up than the right. So I would definitely say the right lane is going to be trickier for Bill. But typically for everyone else, it's probably going to be the left lane. Even though he did have those two kind of fortunate strikes against me. But that's all in the past now.
Well, it's glad to hear that you're not bitter about it.
No, I think Bill deserves a break every now and then. He always looks like he's been, you know, hard done by his whole life.
Oh, my gosh.
So I got invited for 3 frames. So there's one left. Randy said he can only come in for 3 frames. I don't want to take away his airtime.
You can stay as long as you want. In fact, you can have my job. O'Neill, left lane. He actually looks deeper now than he was in the 10th frame in your match, Dom.
Yeah, I think, you know, thinking about the last couple of frames, he knows that Chris is going to be a lot further left than when I was. The strip and reel may have made them feel like they're even crisper. So that may have pushed Bill further left as well, and the right lane might have been trying to catch up in the right lane as well, but you know, in my opinion, you can go as far left as you want on the left lane, is what I felt like at the end. But the right lane, you have to kind of get that hold going on. That makes sense. There's a lot of oil down lane on the right lane, so trying to play that shim with speed. So I think that's coming back. You can kind of see, like, you can tell if that was a little bit slower, not a few mile an hour, but you know, you can see if it was slower, you probably would be able to tell that ball would actually make it back. But But that would be good speed on the left lane.
Right. I guess the question I'm having now is that quick reel, even with the same pattern, are they going to play tougher than they did with your match against Bill O'Neill?
So they definitely always play different. Pretty unlucky there. He wrapped it.
See if you can explain that to the people that are listening in, because all they're hearing is, in your match with Bill O'Neill, it was this pattern. In Bill O'Neill's match against Chris Vi, it's the same exact pattern. How in the world could they possibly be any different?
Well, you know, I'm not the lane guy. I just bowl. But to me, it does always feel different. I mean, you can go home and practice, and you can put the same pattern down on a bunch of different lanes, and you can re-oil, but it's always going to feel kind of similar because you're in a similar environment. But here, you know, we only bowled a game, so the machine may be taking more oil off the down lane part. I can't really explain that, and I definitely don't have the answers for it, but it definitely makes everything feel more amplified. So when a lane hooks more, it makes it hook more even more drastically than we were playing squads earlier. And when there's a lane that feels tight, then typically that lane feels tighter than it did when we were bowling earlier, and especially when you only get 2 shots on each lane. Now, we've been bowling 15 minutes practice with 3 on a pair, 4 on a pair. Now there's 2 on a pair, and they get 2 shots. So I think it's really good. I kind of really like that format as well, especially when the top seed is Bill in the right lane. So there's a bit more oil there, a bit tighter. Not more oil because, you know, the machine put down the same amount, but this lane doesn't hook quite as much down lane. This ball gets behind the head pin.
Well, that's his second pocket 7-10 in 2 games. I like your adjective or your definition of it. Just seems like everything is more amplified. So if the right lane's a little bit tighter to start, with the re-oil of the same pattern, it's going to seem even more so. The left lane we know hooks, and it looks like in this match it's actually hooking even more now.
And especially the fact, I think practice play makes a big difference. We usually get 10, 15 minutes, and we can't change the pattern that much, but we can blend patterns out, and that's what we kind of do when we practice. We try to... So even that one that goes high, you can see how much earlier that ball picked up. Right. They tried to roll forward from that point, and that's why he went high and chipped the 4 pin. You can see it right around the arrows, I think. That wasn't the best angle to see that. Thanks, Jeff. But no, it's fine. But yeah,
you want to trade jobs, Tom?
He's an equal opportunist.
You can go bowl if you like.
Jeff, he's an equal opportunist. He gives it to both of us.
Yes.
I've almost won the Steve Nagy a couple of times. I don't know what you two are talking
You've
about.
You've never won the Steve Nagy.
I haven't, no, but been on the ballot a couple of times. And
yeah, that's because they didn't have enough names to fill the ballot, so they just started picking names out of a hat, and yours ended up on there.
I think you might be right with that.
Yeah.
The fact that Martin Larson won it once.
That is an absolute travesty and a joke.
That probably says more about us bowlers than it does about the nice people around the bowling community.
Martin Larson is way nicer than you.
He just spoke Swedish for a whole year, and no one understood what he was actually saying.
Exactly right. Everybody thought he was saying really nice things about everyone. Little did they know. And then all of a sudden, half the tour learned Swedish.
But my point is, we get to blend patterns out in practice, and it kind of, the left lane's always going to feel like it hooks more. But because we blend it, it doesn't feel quite as drastic as it does as it's playing as we're watching.
Yeah, and that makes perfect sense. Just not enough time. And I think that was the point of the stepladder finals when this was created by Sean Rash, which was not to allow anyone to create something or create an advantage.
Absolutely, and I think the fact that Sean picked, I travelled to this event from England, so there's only a limited amount of equipment I can bring. So the fact that Sean picked 3 patterns, all the same distance, but once we bowled on them a few games, they did feel kind of similar. Some had more oil, less oil, slightly different shapes. But you can see the difference in the stepladder final. My first match, we played on Chameleon, and I could be a lot further right than I could be on the Bear. So what have we got? We've got Bill with a couple of opens, no doubles, struggling on the right lane. And we've got Chris, kind of a little bit in between. He 210'd on the right lane, and he keeps going high on the left lane.
22-pin match right now after 5.5. But O'Neill working on a strike.
Yeah, especially with the 2 early opens from Bill, and he's already bowled a game on the same pattern, you kind of expect a big finish from Bill now. He just 710'd on this right lane, but you expect him now to figure this out, make a good shot. Pretty perfect there.
Oh, it's almost like he had a crystal ball.
Well, we're playing it on a delay, right? I saw that about 10 seconds ago.
This is pretty good here, though. Following it up on the right lane after that pocket 710, which if he would have carried that hit.
It's almost impossible to see what his move was, but you can only go by what I would have moved, like you would have moved. I probably would have just slowed down a little bit, maybe moved. You might even move one left to get away from sort of the carry down and the oil down lane, but it looked pretty good, didn't it?
Yeah, and it looks like he's even deeper on this shot on the left lane.
Yeah, he's sliding nearly in the left gutter now.
Doesn't like it.
Deja vu. Wasn't quite that bad against me. But at least Bill's celebrating it. And
oh, man, what an unbelievable break once again for Bill O'Neill. He did leave the pocket 7-10 in the 4th.
Yeah, he knows that he can't miss left in that lane. He knows that he needs to get the ball to the right, let the ball roll off it on the left lane. But the right lane, he's forcing his hand to make that move on the right lane, trying to make the ball hook. No, unfortunately, that's just quite a poor shot from Chris. Yeah, that wasn't one of Chris's best. That wasn't much of anything. He knows that lane's tight. He knows he can't get it too far to the right. He knows he can't throw it hard. And unfortunately, it looks like he did all of those things. That is a makeable spare.
Dom, did the shot in the 7th frame by O'Neill affect Chris Vi?
That's a lead change.
Hope it didn't, I mean, if it did, that would just come down to experience and come down to, a match of bowling is 10 frames. It's not that one frame that's going to dictate who wins or loses. So hopefully it didn't. I'm going to go and say it didn't. I just think, it's still early in the game. Chris is in a commanding position, and he just threw a poor shot, unfortunately. But let's see what he can do on this one.
Beauty. Nice comeback after the washout in the 7th. Big, strong guy, gym rat, keeps himself in great shape, and Chris Vi is the real deal. Talking to tour rep Tim Mack.
One of your man crushes, is it?
No, I don't know Chris well enough yet, but
he's a good-looking guy.
It could get there.
I'm not sure if he singles for all the ladies out there. He might be.
Big shot here for O'Neill, working on that 3-bagger. And that's how you parlay.
That was nice, yeah. So most of us bowlers aren't as good looking as Chris, so.
Yeah, I know I'm not. Back in the day, though.
Back in the day what?
I could have given him a run for his money.
Who, you?
Me. Have you seen some of those 80 photos?
I haven't Google imaged you yet, no. Mankini?
Oh, my Lord. I told you he should have only stayed for 3 frames. O'Neill now in the driver's seat. 9th frame, can lock this thing up right here. Left lane. Great shot.
Very good.
Game over. He's going to bowl E.J. Tackett for the title.
Oh, no, he still needs that mark, doesn't he? Because he can strike out. Chris can strike out for 209.
209.
So that's 234. So if he spares, it would be 210 with
Well,
good count. So come on.
All right.
You're a commentator. You're supposed to make it exciting for everybody, not tell him it's all over. It's not over. Anything can happen, but Chris needs to strike out.
It's 5 in a row for O'Neill. To have any chance, Chris Vi needs to strike out.
You were telling us before you've been traveling a lot and you were a bit tired, but come on. Make an effort. All right, Chris does need to strike out, though.
That looks good. Will this get interesting?
It could do, couldn't it?
And how easy it is to split, leave a washout or a 210.
We're saying that Bill's favourite lane's the left lane. 710 on the right lane already.
Yep.
Had an open in the 2nd frame, the 2810.
Chris needs a double and good count.
Absolutely. You think he'll get it? I think Chris will put all the pressure on?
I think if he makes an adjustment on this left lane.
Well, he just flushed the last time.
I think he still needs to move before he throws his shot. Because I think the left lane breaks down like every other shot.
It does, yeah. I think you could be right. See what he does. A little bit in.
That one kind of rolled out and set. That was really good.
A little bit less volume potentially on that lane or less or down lane. If you get the ball to read the right way, the right angle for the fronts, just like that, that was pretty good.
Max score for Chris Vi, 209, 234 for O'Neill.
To say the younger guys get their ball through the pins unbelievably well, don't they?
Yeah.
Must strike. So that one just went a little bit further right, just got a little bit behind the head pin. And that's your game. Barring an awful count from Bill.
Pretty good shot, but the messenger in front of the 10. And now Bill O'Neill just needs to keep it on the lane. And have already been informed that E.J. Tackett is going to pick the chameleon pattern for the title match.
That's the one that E.J. bowled great on the first day. I think he used urethane, and he ran away from the rest of the field in the first day, I think.
Oh my.
Bill. Is that 6?
7.
7. So now he just needs 1. Is that right? Can I add up? That'll be 160, 171,
178.
188, 195. He needs a spare now. He needs a spare. He's got one.
He's going with a straight ball. Did he chop it?
Oh, Bill.
Wow. That was crazy. Crazy 10th frame. 71-91. And had to have this. Right?
Yeah, had to have it. Threw hard at it.
Yeah.
Got it. Clutch spare. Like I was saying, you know, Bill's not a big fan of that lane.
Wow. He somehow fought through it. Don Barrett, thanks so much for your time. Best of luck in your future travels.
Right.
Best of luck to you and your wife with the new baby on the way.
Thanks very much, guys, for having me, and enjoy the title match.
Jeff Goodger, take us to break.
Championship match coming up. EJ Tackett versus Bill O'Neill on the chameleon pattern in mere moments. O'Neill and Tackett finishing their practice championship match coming up momentarily. Jeff Goodger with Randy Peterson, now joined by Chris Vai, coming off your match with Bill O'Neill. And what happened there, Chris?
Well, threw some pretty bad shots there in the kind of middle part of the game. The 210 and the super washout. I've really been working on my tempo, trying to get a little bit slower. And, you know, I guess, you know, adrenaline just kind of got a little fast, and kind of old habits creep back in a little quick, and it leads to leak out to the right. And, you know, it is what it is.
Right lane couldn't do that on it. On the left lane was okay because there was so much friction on that left lane. But, Chris, I'm going to ask you, now that the players are going to switch patterns now, EJ has chosen chameleon, and we saw him starting with urethane with a ton of surface. What do you think is going to happen to this pattern? You bowled on this pattern earlier in the week. In fact, I think it was the first pattern you qualified on. What do you see happening on this pair with this pattern?
Well, EJ actually, I think he used urethane all 8 games on this pattern, so he was able to stay pretty far right and just throw it as hard as he wanted. Got it to stand up in the first 15, 20 feet, and then it just took a beeline to the pocket. So I think he honestly might stay out of Bill's way. Bill's going to play left. Depends on where Bill's break point. If he's trying to get it to, you know, 6, 7 down lane, he might see some wiggle in the later part of the game.
Tackett having O'Neill start this match.
What's the biggest difference, this pattern versus the bear that you just bowled on?
They actually all played very similar. I think the bear had a little bit more recovery to the right,
Okay.
which is kind of funny because I didn't see it on the right lane at least. But,
At least on this bear.
yeah, but yeah, I think the angles need to be a little bit more square on this pattern to start at least.
Okay.
And then, you know, they opened up all pretty similar. But I think, yeah, this one you can play a little bit further to the right and kind of jam it in there.
We'll see what strategy Bill O'Neill goes with here as he will start the match, which means he will finish the match on the right lane. And it looks like EJ Tackett's going to go with that sanded urethane ball and throw it really hard at the pocket.
And if you notice, Bill, same ball.
Yep. And way in.
Yeah, that lane hooks a ton. So it might just be on that lane. We'll see what he does when he goes back to the right lane.
Oh, did he? Okay, thanks. Same ball I think, sir. And guys, Sean Rash just came by and told me that prior to the start of this match, that Bill O'Neill actually hit that bowling ball with an Aberlon pad to freshen up the surface. EJ Tackett averaging 229 for the 24 games of qualifying to get to this point, by far the high average of the rest of the players in the field. Chris, you were only 3 pins behind, a little less than 3 pins behind him a game. So you held your own against former player of the year, and this guy at age 25 is already Hall of Fame eligible.
Yeah, he is a heck of a bowler. He's good when he needs to be, too.
So what do you think that sanded urethane ball is going to do to Bill O'Neill's reaction?
Well,
You think he's far enough away from it?
I'm not sure. I'm shocked how far left EJ is with it. He was much further right during qualifying with that, so there may be a little bit of OB he's trying to kind of stay away from. But where he's at, it may have a little effect on Bill's ball later in the game. Might see some wiggle down lane.
Because of the carry down, because of the urethane.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the left lane is hooked more throughout every match. And even with the urethane ball, is that what EJ is seeing on that left lane?
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like it's super early, and the lane just hooks a ton.
Wow, what a start. Ring 10 and then stone 9 for Bill O'Neill. But I'll tell you what, he's had some really good things go his way. Happened in your match, happened in the match before yours. And as a player, when you're bowling in a stepladder finals and you see that as you're making your way up the ladder, a lot of times you start to get a little feeling about, hey, this is finally going to be my day.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, when those things start happening, it's kind of like, it's meant to be for you that day. So we'll see if he takes advantage of it.
Well, really good opening 2 shots for Bill. And all he has to do is figure out how to strike when he gets to the pocket. He did win a title earlier this year, but it was a doubles title with partner Jason Belmonte. And I've always said that winning doubles is all about picking the right partner, seeing how all of my regional titles, all doubles titles. Look out.
Yeah, and that one was actually left of his first one, and it wiggled. I mean, that honestly, EJ's only thrown, 3 shots on that lane, 2 practice and 1 in match play, and it may already be a factor. With how much surface he had on that urethane, it really blew up the front, so you have to get away from it, which is what Bill is doing, but getting your ball to recover back from that down lane, it's tough.
And you would think that it would take more than 3 shots for Bill O'Neill's ball reaction to go away, or EJ Tackett create enough carry down to affect Bill O'Neill. So we'll have to wait and see if his next shot on that lane reacts the same way.
Shot there. Yeah, EJ's rev rate will actually amplify kind of the carry down. It happens a little bit quicker, with the if the person has a higher rev rate.
Now, what's the move for him on the left lane?
I think just a better shot.
Okay.
It looked dead left off his hand. Was able to get 9 out of it. We'll see if he just makes a better one.
Looks like he threw it harder.
Yeah, and he kind of got it through the front part of the lane. Got it over the early hook. That's what I was curious about. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to get it back around the corner. And he was able to strike there, obviously, but the ball didn't go through the pins very well.
Good enough to strike. I mean, he literally chucked that down the lane and split the rack in half. And that's what you do. You take advantage of the opening given to you by your opponent. It's exactly what EJ Tackett has done. Hang again. And this one's ugly. It looks like 2-7-10. And again, I'm going off of a monitor, but a little bit right of target, doesn't get back. Wow. And so much talk about the bowling balls, but nobody ever talks about the damage urethane does to an oil pattern. And I'm wondering right now if we're seeing what's happening to O'Neill because of the urethane ball from Tackett.
Yeah, the left lane I could definitely see. I think that, I mean, it's just that right lane, that 28. If it's going right, it has a hard time making it back around the corner. So we'll see what Bill does on this left lane. See if he can get it back around the corner.
Ball change, and Brooklyn.
Weird stuff out there. Tackett looking for a turkey and a big lead.
Yeah,
Randy just left.
The ball is not going through the pins very well.
That was very interesting. I mean, that was the 8-10, the flat 8-10 with the 10 getting kicked out by the 6-pin. The good news for Tackett is I think it's probably pretty easy for him to keep the ball in the pocket.
Mm-hmm.
Spare for Tackett. And Chris Vi, want to thank you for your time for these 5 frames.
Thank you very much for having me.
Chris, thank you so much. Keep up the great bowling.
Absolutely, thank you.
And Chris Vi finishing 3rd in this event here in Aurora. And now we are Jeff Goodger and Randy Peterson being joined by tournament host Sean Rash.
Guys, we have a pretty good match so far. I know Tackett's got a quick lead here, but I think anything can happen.
Ooh. Sean, what do you see going on out there with one urethane ball going down the lane and then O'Neill with reactive?
Well, I see EJ playing his strengths, keeping the ball in front of him, controlling the lane, controlling the pocket. When I went down and asked him what pattern he was going to pick, he said he was taking Chameleon because he could throw urethane away from him and it would stay on line. It wouldn't get, wouldn't wiggle. Where Bear, if he threw it away, it was kind of iffy. There was so much friction in the middle to start. And with reactive on the Chameleon pattern, throwing it right kind of wiggled. And you're seeing that with Bill on the right lane. Even though the right lane is tighter today on this championship finals, just explaining to some people already, just being the local pro here, that the left lane does hook more. So it doesn't matter what pattern we put out there, the left lane hooks more.
O'Neill's tried 3 different balls now in 5.5 frames, and he's completely lost. He's probably running into a little bit of the carry down created by the urethane, Sean?
Yeah, absolutely. The urethane makes the front hook a little bit more, makes the reactive see it. Great spare. Keeps him in the game through 6 frames.
As a player, what goes through your mind? Let's say it's a match on television or a singles match, and you see your opponent warming up with urethane. You're not going to use urethane. What goes through your mind when you see that?
I panic personally. I get confused on what he's actually trying to accomplish. You're always playing offense. If you're playing defense, you're already 1 or 2 frames behind. I'm actually really shocked, Randy, that Bill did not try urethane, knowing what the pattern was going to be. He's very good at it. He used the urethane many times through the years. I'm very surprised that Bill went with this decision, even though he bowled really good the last 2 games on a different pattern. The lane's going to play way different. The characteristics of the pattern. He'd already bowled a couple games on this pattern. He knows the left lane hooks more.
Well, you won't see that very often.
No, and there's just no hold. He's trying to get away from the mid-lane reaction the urethane is causing from 39 to 45 feet. And he's in trouble. Not a spare you shoot every day.
Well, it's not very often you see a pro the caliber of Bill O'Neill miss the head and left. But, you know, getting back to your point, why do you think that Bill didn't use urethane and get right on top of where EJ is and mirror him?
Just confidence, I think, in the bowling balls he's already been throwing. Feels one of it. The balls that he's been throwing the same ball for a couple games, so the feel's probably really good. That's left, and it laid there.
Yeah.
And he knew it. And that's the one thing that you can get away with when you're throwing urethane. It will lay there. Doesn't matter what pattern it is. And that's why guys keep throwing more and more urethane. I'll be the first one to admit I'd like to see urethane be ixnayed from tour, USBC, everything. So because of what it does to the lane.
But yet everybody talks about the other balls. You know, and all I see is urethane balls, if anything, destroying the integrity of an oil pattern faster.
Oh, he does a very good job of it.
With early hook and carry down lane.
Correct. I'm wondering here what Bill will do. I would have to imagine he's going to grab his urethane ball and move right. EJ's minimum going to shoot 2-2-0.
Oh, he
he's
did.
Moved right.
Yes, he did.
But it's not urethane.
Nope. It's not urethane, but now I'm wondering if he thinks there's enough shim there, enough hold created by the urethane of EJ Tackett where he can kind of dead hand it straight up second arrow.
Yeah, and that's one thing Bill's gotten really good at, but he's always been really good at going up the lane, end over end roll, letting that ring finger come out of it last. This is the shot of the match, in my opinion. It gives him any hope if he strikes.
Taking no time, that's for sure. Oh, nice break. How about a kick to the gut while we're at it?
Your champion will be EJ Tackett. Randy, you and I will go down and do some presentations, but I want to say a shout out real quick to Parkside Lanes and all of our sponsors, but especially to Flow Bowling for joining the PBA Tour, all of our fans and subscribers. It's been an unbelievable first weekend with Flow Bowling. The media coverage, the interviews, job well done to Flow Bowling.
Sean, a job well done by yourself, and I know that it's an incredible amount of work, and thank you and everything that you do for our sport and for the PBA Tour. And the staff here at Parkside, you guys did an amazing job once again. Thank you for all of your efforts and hard work.
Thank you, sir.
Sean Rash, future Hall of Famer, giving back to the sport, does such a great job here. Players appreciate it. We appreciate it. And we can't thank him and the staff here at Parkside enough. EJ Tackett's going to win title number 10, Jeff. I'm going to go down to the lanes and talk. I'm going to go down to the floor and have a word with young EJ Tackett.
I'm looking forward to that, Randy. Tackett and O'Neill will finish out per the rules. Randy Peterson heading down as we speak. EJ Tackett winning his 10th PBA Tour title. He was the youngest player to 9, and he is now the youngest player to 10. 210, the winning score for Tackett. Coming off his second place finish at the 2018 PBA Tour Finals, Tackett's first win of 2018. Final shot for Bill O'Neill.
I'd like to introduce PBA Hall of Famer Randy Peterson.
And let's send it down to Randy.
Thank you, everyone. How about a nice round of applause for all of our finalists, including Bill O'Neill. EJ Tackett, title number 10, age 25, already Hall of Fame eligible. How does that sound?
It sounds pretty good. You know, I won my 9th title last year against Jason, and it's been about 7 or 8 months now, and I went through a weight change, went back to 15. I had a little bit of physical issue going on, and I've been working really hard on my game, and I think it's finally starting to come together. Lubbock, I bowled really good, missed the show, but I came out here this week and just hoping that I can make good shots and everything comes together, and it finally did.
Yeah, well, you're officially back, young man. What was in the decision making to go with Chameleon?
Well, none of the guys have bowled on it so far. Well, they bowled on it earlier, but Bill and Chris hadn't bowled on it yet today. But the biggest reason why was on the fresh. I felt like I had my best opportunity to bowl a good game. The other two patterns, I started with urethane on both of them, but I had to do a lot of work to break the lane down the right way. And this pattern, I had to do the least amount of work. So I thought I could eliminate bowling 180 by using this pattern and give myself a chance to bowl, a 230, 240 game.
Congratulations. Enjoy title number 10, my friend.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.